The flash of cameras hit, like lightning against marble and glass. Outside the Wyndham Crown Hotel, black cars lined the curb in a procession of wealth and power. The city air was thick with perfume, laughter, and the faint hum of drone cameras capturing every celebrity who stepped onto the red carpet. The annual Aurora Children's Fund Charity Gala, New York's most exclusive philanthropic event, was in full bloom, its ballroom glittering with $1 billion worth of ambition. Inside, chandeliers dripped gold light across a sea of designer gowns and tuxedos. Journalists clustered near the entryway, calling out names with trained enthusiasm. Senator Addison. Over here. Ms. Reynolds. Who designed your dress? Mr. Patel. Smile for Forbes. The room pulsed with privilege. Waiters in white gloves floated between tables carrying champagne flutes like offerings. The smell of truffle oil and money mixed in the air. And then, through the revolving doors, walked Darius Cole. He didn't arrive with an entourage or camera crew. Just one man in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo, quiet, deliberate, and calm. His presence didn't need to announce itself. It was a kind of stillness that commanded attention without asking for it. But not everyone noticed. At the registration table, a woman with diamond earrings and a brittle smile looked up from her clipboard. Good evening, sir. Name? Cole. Darius Cole, he said. Table 1. Cole Global Foundation. Her pen paused. A flicker of uncertainty crossed her face before she forced a smile. Let me just check that. Her eyes skimmed the list far longer than necessary. Oh, I'm not seeing you on the VIP table list. Mr. Cole, was it? A few guests in line glanced over. A man in a navy suit muttered under his breath, Must be press. Darius kept his composure. There must be a mistake. My assistant confirmed yesterday. The hostess's smile stiffened. Yes, well, we're at capacity at the main tables, but I can seat you near the back, next to the catering entrance. He blinked once, slowly. You're suggesting I sit beside the service doors at an event my foundation helped fund? Her tone turned syrupy, the kind of politeness that dripped contempt. Sir, this area is reserved for major sponsors, executives, and VIP contributors. I'm sure you understand. A ripple of murmurs spread. People pretended not to watch, but couldn't help glancing. Someone behind him whispered, Maybe he's staff. Another chuckled. Catering must be running late. Her words landed softly, but the humiliation struck like a whip. The air seemed to tighten around him. Even the chandelier light fell harsher. Darius took a steady breath. Check again, he said, his voice smooth but edged with authority. She didn't. Instead, she gestured toward the farthest corner of the ballroom. Right this way, please. The maitre d' stepped forward, young, nervous, trying to diffuse tension. If you'll follow me, sir. Darius looked past them. His seat, table 1, sat gleaming under a spotlight near the stage, surrounded by the mayor, the event chairwoman, and several high-profile CEOs. A small gold placard read, Reserved, Cole Global Foundation. Someone else was sitting there. A broad-shouldered hedge fund executive in a velvet jacket leaned back in a chair, laughing loudly, a glass of champagne in hand. He had no idea he'd taken the seat of the man who had bankrolled the very event, keeping his reputation polished. The hostess noticed Darius looking that way and said lightly, That table's accounted for. I'm sure they'll find a spot for you next year. The words dropped like ice cubes into boiling water. For a moment, everything slowed, the sound of violins, the laughter, the hum of conversation. And then Darius exhaled. Then I'll stand. The hostess blinked. Excuse me? I said I'll stand. Seems fitting. The quiet steel in his tone made her flinch, though she hid behind her professional smile. As you wish, sir. The humiliation was complete, public, and precise. But Darius didn't storm off, didn't raise his voice, didn't make a scene. He simply buttoned his jacket, turned toward the ballroom, and walked through the glittering crowd, standing taller than anyone seated at their tables of borrowed virtue. Phones came out. Someone whispered, Is that the investor from Cole Global? Another replied, Can't be. They'd never treat him like that. But the video had already started recording. The moment, the tone, the dismissive glance. A journalist in the corner noticed too, quietly lifting her camera. She recognized the name Cole and sensed a story unfolding. At the bar, Darius ordered sparkling water. "No alcohol," he said simply. "I like to remember who I'm dealing with." He stood alone, hands clasped behind his back, watching the orchestra play. The same hostess who dismissed him now laughed with a group of guests near the mayor's table, unaware that her career, her entire industry, was about to become collateral damage in a masterclass of controlled retribution. On stage, the charity director took the microphone. "Tonight, we honor the generous support of our sponsors, including the anonymous foundation that provided over $3 million to make this event possible." Applause filled the room. Darius smiled faintly. Anonymous? How convenient. A waiter approached him nervously. "Sir, would you like to be seated now?" He shook his head. "I'm fine standing." The waiter hesitated, then nodded and left. But Darius's gaze lingered on the grand stage, on the people clapping, unaware that their comfort was borrowed from his generosity, and their arrogance borrowed time. Across the ballroom, a man in a tailored suit leaned toward a colleague. "You know who that is, right? That's Darius Cole, the guy who runs half the infrastructure that funds this entire city." The colleague laughed dismissively. "Then why is he standing?" That question would soon be answered, loudly, publicly, and irrevocably. But for now, Darius stood in perfect composure beneath the chandeliers, watching the room sparkle with a kind of false light that only the powerful mistake for real illumination. He adjusted his cufflinks, their platinum edges catching the light, engraved with his company's initials, CGH, and checked his phone. A text flashed from his CFO. "The Aurora Fund accessed a reserve account without clearance. Should we intervene?" His thumb hovered over the screen. "Not yet. Let them finish their performance." He slipped the phone back into his pocket. His reflection in the bar mirror stared back at him, poised, calculating, silent. Behind him, laughter continued. Toasts were raised, and money changed hands under crystal chandeliers. They thought they'd put him in his place. They hadn't realized yet. The entire place belonged to him, and when the lights went out later that night, every chandelier in that room would dim under his command. If you are enjoying this story, please subscribe to support the channel. The gala shimmered on, oblivious to the man standing at its edge. Laughter rippled to the ballroom like surface waves on a deep sea, masking the silent current beneath. The one building inside Darius Cole. He stood by the marble column near the bar, his reflection broken into fragments across the mirrored walls. One face of composure, one of exhaustion, one of buried fury. From across the room, he watched as the hostess, the same woman who'd kindly offered him the back table, now laughed with the event's chairwoman, glass in hand, unaware that her laugh would soon echo across headlines for all the wrong reasons. The stage lights flared gold as the evening's MC, a famous TV host with a $10,000 smile, took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, what an incredible turnout. Tonight, thanks to our generous sponsors, including the Cole Global Foundation," he paused for applause. "We're on track to raise over $5 million for the children of the Aurora Fund." The crowd erupted in cheers. The mayor clapped from the front table. Camera flashes popped like fireworks. But Darius's expression didn't move. The applause was a lie. He knew the numbers, his numbers. The Aurora Fund's operational expenses had ballooned by nearly 230% in just 8 months. Luxury travel, catering, consulting fees. He'd seen the audits, the signatures, the creative accounting masked by philanthropy. He had warned them quietly, weeks ago, in emails ignored by the same people now raising champagne in his honor. "You can't outgift corruption," his father used to say. "You can only expose it." The thought made his jaw tighten. A soft voice broke his focus. "Sir," it was Maya, his executive assistant, calm, efficient, always 2 steps ahead. Tonight she wore a sleek navy dress instead of her usual office attire, but her expression was all business. "They moved our team to the catering annex," she whispered, holding a tablet close to her chest. "They said the main tables are reserved for donors of note." Darius exhaled slowly. "And we're apparently not a note. Should I correct them?" He shook his head. "No, Let them stay blind. Blindness is useful. Maya hesitated, then glanced at her screen. You should see this. The glow of the tablet reflected against his calm, dark eyes, a live transaction log. They pulled another $2.8 million from our escrow account this afternoon. Unauthorized, she said. They used our foundation's name to pay for this entire event. Technically, every chandelier, every glass, every fork in this room belongs to you. He didn't speak right away. His face was unreadable, but something behind his eyes hardened. Maya's voice softened. We can lock them out now if you want. One tap and it all freezes. Darius looked across the ballroom again. The mayor was laughing with corporate executives. The auctioneer was warming up on stage, waving diamond-encrusted paddles. Waiters poured champagne like liquid arrogance. Not yet, he said quietly. Let them toast first. The orchestra shifted into a softer tune. Crystal glasses clinked like wind chimes. He looked down at his reflection in the glass of his untouched drink. No anger, just quiet calculation. What's that look? Maya asked softly. My mother used to say, he murmured, never interrupt someone when they're digging their own grave. Maya's lips curved into the smallest smile. And after they finish, then you hand them the shovel. Across the room, a charity executive, the same one who had replaced Darius's name tag with another guest, took the stage. She spoke with feigned humility, her diamond necklace catching every flash of the cameras. We are honored tonight, she announced, by the presence of so many generous leaders who have made this event possible. The Cole Global Foundation has been an extraordinary ally of this cause. The crowd applauded again. Darius didn't move. Unfortunately, she added with a smile, Mr. Cole could not join us tonight, but we thank him for his contribution. The room laughed politely, and for the first time, a muscle twitched in Darius's jaw. Maya's breath caught. They're pretending you're not even here. He raised his gaze, eyes steady on the stage, his expression still. But beneath that stillness was a kind of silence that precedes a storm. Every time you try to erase someone, he said quietly, you teach the world to look for them. The orchestra swelled again. A dozen photographers snapped pictures of the front tables. One photo would later go viral. A shot of the mayor and sponsors laughing while, in the background, a solitary man in a tuxedo stood beside the bar, watching in silence. The caption would read, he funded the event that just humiliated him. And they had no idea. But that moment hadn't arrived yet. For now, the show continued. Darius's phone buzzed. Another text, this time from his head of legal, confirming your authorization to halt disbursements if misuse confirmed. Waiting for your word. He slid the phone back into his pocket. Not yet, he whispered again. Instead, he watched crowd. Watched how the people who thought they'd won the night were beginning to drink a little too fast, laugh a little too loud. The smugness of the powerful, the kind that always forgets how fragile power is when it's borrowed. Maya looked up at him. You're planning something. He didn't deny it. They think this is their night, he said softly. I'll let them have that for the next hour. Then I'll take back what's mine. Maya tilted her head. And when you do? He smiled faintly, the first real smile of the night. They'll thank me for it. At first, the first auction item was announced. A week in Monaco, courtesy of one of the sponsors. Paddles rose. Numbers climbed. Every bid processed through the Cole Global Payment Network. Darius's systems. His rules. He could see every transaction in real time on his phone. The bids, the transfers, the silent funnel of money moving through the servers his company maintained. Every dollar was traceable. Every fraudulent expense was visible. Maya leaned closer. Do you want me to start compiling the audit file? Already done, he said. The data's been syncing since they opened the event. I wanted to see how deep the rock goes. And he turned his phone so she could see. The screen glowed with dozens of flagged transactions, money rerouted to personal accounts onto shell charities, consulting fees paid to non-existent vendors, transportation costs double billed. Maya's eyes widened. This isn't mismanagement. It's theft. Yes, he said softly. And they dressed it up in black tie. A waiter passed, offering another drink. Darius declined. The ballroom had grown louder. laughter echoing off the glass walls. The orchestra reached its crescendo, and beneath that noise Darius Cole, the man standing invisible at his own table, pressed his thumb against his phone screen. The biometric lock clicked open with a soft tone. He didn't press freeze. Not yet. Timing mattered. Presentation mattered. He looked toward the stage again, where the charity chairwoman was now introducing the night's highlight, the miracle auction. A live bidding war streamed to thousands online. "This is it," Maya whispered. Darius's eyes narrowed. "Yes, this is where the truth pays its first dividend." He placed his untouched glass on the bar counter, straightened his jacket, and began walking toward the stage. The crowd didn't notice him yet. They were too busy applauding the next round of self-congratulation. But as he moved through the sea of satin dresses and designer suits, something in the air shifted, like the quiet before thunder when the atmosphere knows a storm is forming. By the time he reached the edge of the stage, Maya's voice buzzed softly in his earpiece. "Live feeds are up. Press attendance confirmed. Everything's recording." Darius adjusted his cufflinks, his reflection glinting in the polished brass of the stage railing. "Good," he said. "Let's give them a story they'll never forget." And as he stepped into the light, the crowd's laughter softened, not because they recognized him, but because somewhere deep in their instincts, they felt the balance of power beginning to tilt. They just didn't know yet how completely it was about to fall. The orchestra faded beneath polite applause as a charity host, all teeth and television polish, stepped up to the microphone again. "Ladies and gentlemen," he beamed, "it's time for the highlight of the evening, the miracle auction. Tonight, your generosity will help us raise a record amount for the children of the Aurora Fund." Spotlights swept the room. Crystal glasses lifted. The rich applauded themselves. At the back of the ballroom, Darius Cole moved quietly toward the stage. He didn't rush. He didn't need to. Power, real power, didn't sprint. It arrived when it was ready. As he walked, snippets of conversation brushed past him like static. "I hear his company's involved with city contracts." "No, that's someone else." "Who invited him anyway?" He reached the foot of the stage just as the auctioneer announced the first item, a private island weekend in the Bahamas. Bids erupted instantly. Paddles flashed. The atmosphere throbbed with money. And all of it, every transaction, every gleaming dollar, passed through his company's servers. The irony nearly made him laugh. Maya's voice crackled softly through the earpiece. "Cameras are live. The feed is stable. Every major news outlet is tuned in." "Good," he murmured, eyes fixed on the stage. "Time to collect what they owe." The auctioneer smiled toward the front table. "Mayor Addison, your bid of $200,000. Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, can anyone beat that?" Darius stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "I can." The microphone caught it. Low, steady, unmistakable. The kind of voice that didn't need volume to command silence. Heads turned. The auctioneer blinked, thrown off script. Sir, this section's for donors and registered." "I am both." A ripple passed through the room. Whispers. Recognition dawning. A few phones lifted discreetly. The hostess at the registration table went pale, remembering her earlier tone. "Sir," the auctioneer stammered, "may I ask your name for the record?" Darius stepped into the spotlight. "Cole. Darius Cole." It was as if someone had thrown a live wire into the room. The name echoed, first in confusion, then in disbelief, and finally in dawning horror. From the front table, the charity chairwoman's smile faltered. Oh, my, Mr. Cole." He nodded once, politely. "Good evening. I heard the Cole Global Foundation was being thanked tonight, so I thought I'd introduce myself." A few nervous laughs fluttered, quickly dying when they realized he wasn't joking. The mayor shifted in his seat. The media photographers leaned forward, sensing blood in the water. "I wasn't aware the foundation's representative was attending," the chairwoman said weakly. "I wasn't aware I'd been uninvited," he replied, his tone razor-sharp yet perfectly polite. Silence, the kind that vibrated with discomfort. He turned toward the audience. "Before we continue bidding on Paradise Getaways, I'd like to share a small correction. Every penny funding this event, from the chandeliers above us to the plates in front of you, came from my company's accounts. Gasps. A few heads whipped toward each other. He continued, voice steady, deliberate. My foundation donated over $3 million this quarter to the Aurora Fund to help underprivileged children, not to finance caviar and champagne, not to stage a pageant of self-congratulation. The crowd stiffened. A few people instinctively lowered their phones. Others started recording. He pulled his phone from his pocket and tapped once. Behind him, the massive LED screen flickered. The charity slideshow vanished, replaced by a live financial dashboard, glowing in cold white text. Aurora Fund Gala disbursements, status, suspended. The auctioneer froze mid-breath. The host's smile crumbled. A murmur rippled through the hall, turning quickly into panic. "What's happening?" someone whispered. "My payment just failed. I can't process the bid." Darius's calm voice cut through the noise. "What's happening," he said, "is called accountability." The room fell still again. Every light, every sound, every heartbeat seemed to pause. "I own the payment infrastructure you're using," he said quietly. "The systems that handle your donations, your purchases, your pledges. And as of 5 minutes ago, those systems are offline." He raised his gaze toward the stage lights, then back to the audience. "Because I will not fund hypocrisy disguised as charity." Maya's voice murmured in his ear. "The stream just went global. 12,000 viewers and climbing." He didn't react. The chairwoman stood, face flushed. "Mr. Cole, please, this isn't the time or place." "This is the time and place," he interrupted, still calm, but the weight in his voice pressed down like gravity. "This is where your donors deserve to know where their money went." He gestured toward the screen again. Another tap, another reveal. Line after line of fraudulent spending appeared. Executive travel, $87,400. Consultant bonus, $120,000. Private suite accommodations, $34,600. The audience gasped. Someone in the front row whispered, "This can't be real." Darius looked out across the room. "I sent multiple warnings to this organization about these inconsistencies. They ignored everyone." The mayor stood awkwardly. "Mr. Cole, perhaps we should take this conversation private." "Private?" Darius repeated, tilting his head. "That's the problem. You kept everything private. Your salaries, your backroom deals, your selective invitations. Tonight was supposed to be public, wasn't it? Well, it finally is." Maya whispered, 40,000 live viewers. The charity director stumbled forward, desperate to regain control. "This is an unfortunate misunderstanding." Darius's calm broke, not into anger, but precision. "Stop calling theft a misunderstanding." The word sliced the air clean in half. For a moment, no one moved. Even the cameras stopped panning. He set his phone down on the podium. The screen behind him changed again, this time to a logo, Cole Global Foundation. "As of now," he said, "I'm withdrawing all financial partnerships with the Aurora Fund and freezing every account tied to this event." The chairwoman gasped. "You can't." "I already have." He leaned in slightly, his tone softening, but somehow that made it sharper. "You didn't just deny me a seat. You denied every child who needed that funding. You turned philanthropy into theater." A journalist in the back whispered her cameraman, "Keep rolling." Darius looked across the sea of stunned faces, some ashamed, some furious, some realizing their careers had just ended live on camera. Then he looked toward the hostess who had humiliated him at the entrance. Their eyes met for one electric second. Her trembling hand clutched the guest's list like a shield. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His silence was verdict enough. The ballroom felt colder now. The chandeliers still shone, but their light had lost its warmth, reflecting instead off the sweat and fear of exposed privilege. He picked up his glass of water and took a slow sip, letting the silence stretch. When he finally spoke again, his voice was quieter, almost reflective. "My grandfather used to tell me, if they won't give you a seat at the table, build your own table and make theirs collapse under its own weight." The line hit like a sermon. He set the glass down gently on the podium, straightened his jacket, and looked toward the cameras. "I think that's enough generosity for one night." And then, with a faint nod to the stunned technicians, he walked off stage. The LED screen flickered once more before going dark, leaving only his name glowing across the top. Darius Cole, Cole Global Holdings. As he stepped off the stage, the sound began, low at first, then growing. Gasps. Whispers. The snapping click of 100 camera shutters. Maya joined him near the doors, phone in hand. "It's viral," she said softly. "We're trending everywhere. Hashtag co-response. Hashtag Aurora scandal. Hashtag charity fraud." The feed hit 1 million viewers before you finished speaking. Darius paused by the grand doors of the ballroom. Behind him, chaos erupted. Board members shouting, guests demanding refunds, servers frozen mid-service, unsure whether pour or run. He turned back one last time, eyes sweeping across the golden room that had tried to make him small. Now it looked smaller than ever. "Turn off the lights," he murmured. And when he stepped outside into the night, the chandeliers behind him went dark. The moment the chandeliers went dark, the illusion of grandeur shattered. For a few seconds, the ballroom stood suspended in half-light. The only illumination coming from camera flashes, phone screens, and the cold blue glow of the stage monitors still displaying "System locked by Cole Global Holdings." Then came the sound, not the orchestra, not applause, panic, 1,000 murmurs igniting all at once. "What's going on? Is this part of the show? My payment app just froze." The hum of confusion grew into chaos as guests realized that their digital bids, their charitable pledges, their entire night of performative generosity had been cut off at the source. At the front of the room, the mayor's aide leaned toward him, whispering urgently. The mayor's jaw tightened, his political instincts already calculating the damage. Nearby, executives in tuxedos jabbed at their phones, refreshing frozen screens that refused to respond. The same hostess who had dismissed Darius earlier clutched her clipboard like a lifeline. He really shut it down," she whispered to the maitre d'. "Yes," he replied numbly. "He really did." Up on stage, the charity chairwoman's voice trembled as she took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, please, everyone remain calm. We're experiencing a minor technical." Her words dissolved beneath the sound of 100 notification tones. Guest phones were lighting up. Live alerts from Bloomberg, CNN, and the Financial Ledger. Breaking. Cole Global CEO halts Aurora Fund Gala amid allegations of financial misuse. Developing. Viral video shows Black CEO publicly exposing corruption at high-profile New York charity event. The live stream had detonated across social media. In under 20 minutes, hashtag co-response trended #1 worldwide. Clips circulated in real time. Darius's calm voice echoing over still frames of shocked millionaires. The frozen auction screen behind him, the line that would become immortalized in meme culture. "If they won't give you a seat at the table, make theirs collapse." From outside the ballroom, camera crews began rushing into the lobby. Hotel staff whispered frantically into earpieces. Security guards arguing with journalists who were already broadcasting live from their phones. "Sir, you can't film in here." "Too late. It's already online." Inside, the atmosphere split into two camps. The privileged panicking and the powerless watching with awe. The waiters, bartenders, and cleaning crew, people who had served drinks and carried trays all night, stood still, silently exchanging glances. For them, Darius wasn't just a CEO. He was a vindication. Maya stayed close behind him as he walked through the sea of chaos, unhurried. The crowd parted instinctively, the same way it had when he first entered. But now, for entirely different reasons. A trembling woman in a sequin dress reached out. "Mr. Cole, please, you don't understand. My husband's a board member. This will ruin him." Darius paused, his gaze cold but controlled. "I understand perfectly," he said. "He ruined himself." She dropped her hand. Behind him, Maya was receiving updates through her headset. "Sir, multiple sponsors are withdrawing. The Foundation for Innovation just pulled a $4 million partnership. Several board members are resigning live on Twitter." "Good," Darius replied quietly. Truth moves faster than lies now. At the far end of the ballroom, the charity's treasurer, a red-faced man with slick back hair, was arguing with security. You can't let him leave. He can't just walk out after. He owns the payment systems. One guard replied flatly, You want me to arrest the guy who controls your accounts? The treasurer's voice cracked. We'll sue him. For what? Exposing you. His words died under the weight of a camera flash. A reporter had turned her lens toward him. Sir, care to comment on the $2.8 million in unauthorized transfers? The color drained from his face. Everywhere Darius looked, reputations were unraveling in real time. Men and women who'd spent years hiding behind wealth and philanthropy, now fumbling for excuses. On stage, the MC had given up all pretense of control. Ladies and gentlemen, it appears tonight's event has encountered some unforeseen circumstances. Please enjoy dessert in the lobby while we resolve these matters. No one moved. No one laughed. The orchestra quietly packed their instruments. The sound of closing violin cases was louder than applause had ever been. Then the power flickered again, and every chandelier blinked back to life. The light returned not as luxury, but as exposure. Harsh, sterile, unflattering. Every face in the room was illuminated. Every whisper, every stain of guilt. And there, standing near the center of it all, Darius Cole looked almost spectral. Calm, untouchable. He reached for the microphone the host had abandoned and spoke once more. You built this night on the illusion of generosity, he said evenly. But generosity means nothing without integrity. He let the words breathe, quiet, surgical, absolute. Every dollar raised tonight will be redirected to legitimate organizations. The children you claim to help will finally receive what you promised them. A woman's voice from the crowd shouted, You will destroy us. No, Darius replied, eyes steady. I'm just showing everyone who you already are. The silence afterward was so deep it seemed to consume the room. Then came the sound of clapping, soft, hesitant, from the back of the ballroom. One of the hotel servers, still in his black vest, had started to applaud. Another joined. Then another. The applause grew, slow, deliberate, defiant. It wasn't the applause of the elite. It was the applause of the invisible, the people who cleaned, served, poured, and endured. For them, this wasn't scandal. It was justice. Maya leaned in. Sir, media vans are outside. They're waiting for a statement. He nodded once. Let them wait. He turned toward the charity's front table, where the chairwoman, the mayor, and several board members sat like statues. Their empire of deceit was crumbling around them, and they still didn't know whether to run or beg. Darius walked up to them, slow and steady. The chairwoman stood, voice shaking. Mr. Cole, please, if we could just meet privately. He stopped her with a look. You already had your private meetings. Now the public gets theirs. She sank back into her chair. He turned to the mayor. You wanted photo ops. Congratulations. You'll have them everywhere by morning. The mayor looked away, speechless. By the time Darius reached the exit, the chaos had reached full crescendo. Reporters shouting questions, flashbulbs exploding, staff evacuating guests who wanted refunds for tickets that now serve as evidence in a pending investigation. He walked through it all with the same composure he'd had when the hostess had humiliated him hours earlier. But now, the crowd parted like reverence, not dismissal. As he reached the revolving doors, Maya caught up, breathless. Sir, the broadcast numbers just hit 8 million. This story is global. London, Tokyo, Johannesburg, they're all running it. Darius paused before stepping into the night air. Through the glass, the ballroom shimmered in chaos. 1,000 people chasing damage control under the same chandeliers that once symbolized superiority. 8 million, he said softly. Good. Let them all watch. He turned to Maya. Pull every sponsorship tied to Aurora. Every account. Every partner. Issue statements. Effective immediately. It'll bankrupt the event, she said. He met her gaze. That's the idea. Then he stepped outside, into the cold Manhattan air, where camera crews swarmed like moths to a flame. A reporter shouted, Mr. Cole, is it true you frozen every Aurora fund account? He stopped just long enough to answer. "No," he said. "I've just reminded them whose money they were spending." And with that, he got into his waiting car. Behind him, the Wyndham Crown's lights flickered once more, and then, one by one, the chandeliers went dark again, until only the glow of camera flashes remained, capturing the depth of arrogance in real time. Morning broke over Manhattan like a camera flash, blinding, sudden, and unrelenting. The news didn't just report the story. It devoured it. By sunrise, every major network carried the headline in bold. Black CEO exposes charity fraud live. Event bankrupted mid-gala. Coal Global freezes $3.20 million after racial humiliation at elite fundraiser. Clips from a night before replayed across screens in airports, hotel lobbies, and coffee shops. Darius's calm voice echoed on a loop. "If they won't give you a seat at the table, make theirs collapse." The line had become a cultural earthquake. Quoted by morning hosts, tweeted by politicians, printed on T-shirts before noon. Across social media, millions debated what had happened. Some called it the most powerful act of corporate justice they'd ever seen. Others, caught in the fallout, called it a vendetta. But everyone agreed on one thing. Darius Cole had changed the rules. Inside Cole Global headquarters, the energy felt electric. Employees crowded around the glass walls of the media room as live broadcasts flooded every channel. Maya stood near the monitors, phone in hand. "The clip hit 12 million views overnight," she said. #CoResponse is trending on every continent. Even the BBC's running it under power and accountability. Darius stood by the window, overlooking the skyline. He hadn't slept. He didn't look tired, just quiet. Still, focused. "Any word from the Aurora board?" he asked. "They've all resigned," Maya replied. "Every one of them. The charity's assets are under federal investigation. The SEC's already reviewing the misused funds." He nodded once. "And the children's fund?" "Transferred," she said. "Every cent redirected to verified nonprofits under our supervision. The actual programs will be funded by morning." That was the only part that made him smile, faintly, almost imperceptibly. "They'll finally get what they were promised," he said softly. Then came the press storm. Requests poured in from every direction: CNN, CNBC, the New York Times. A dozen talk shows wanted him on air. Every PR agency in New York begged to represent him. He declined them all. At noon, he issued a single statement, short, precise, written in his own hand. Integrity is not an accessory to success. It's the foundation. What happened to the Wyndham Crown is not about race or ego. It's about accountability. Charity should serve people, not pride. The Cole Global Foundation will continue funding programs that deliver real impact, not performance. Darius Cole. Within minutes, the statement was everywhere, quoted in editorials, dissected by analysts, praised by activists. It was hailed as the most composed declaration of moral power in modern corporate history. But behind the composure, Darius remained reflective. That night, he sat alone in his penthouse office, city lights stretching endlessly below him like circuitry, millions of windows glowing like data points. On his desk sat two things: a glass of untouched whiskey and a framed photograph of his mother. He picked up the photo, thumb brushing the edge of the frame. She'd always said, "You don't need to shout to be heard. You just need to do something they can't ignore." He had finally done it, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like gravity. Maya entered quietly. "Sir, the Aurora Fund officially declared insolvency tonight. Their sponsors are pulling out. You really did bankrupt the event." "I didn't bankrupt it," Darius said. "They did. I just turned the lights on." She nodded, pausing. "You know, there are people calling this the Cole Principle, the idea that silence can be a weapon, that dignity can bankrupt corruption." He gave a soft laugh, the first real one in days. The Cole Principle. "That's poetic," he said, "but it was never about theatrics. It was about truth." Maya tilted her head. "You realize the story is going to live for years, right? You become a symbol." Darius set the photo down, gazing at the skyline. "Symbols fade," he murmured, "but actions they echo." The following week, consequences continued like falling dominoes. The Aurora Fund's mansion headquarters were seized by federal authorities. The chairwoman, once a fixture in society magazines, was photographed leaving in tears. Her diamond necklace from that night glinted under the camera flash like irony. The mayor issued an official apology, claiming he was misinformed about the organization's finances. His approval ratings plummeted. Meanwhile, the Cole Global Foundation received a surge of new donations from citizens worldwide who trusted his transparency. Within 7 days, it became the fastest-growing philanthropic fund in the country. Darius didn't boast. He didn't post victory statements. He simply kept working, auditing, rebuilding, redirecting. For him, the win was never about humiliation. It was about restoration. Then came the moment that made the story complete. 2 weeks later, a video surfaced on social media, grainy, captured on someone's phone. It showed Darius visiting a small after-school center in Harlem, one that the Aurora Fund had promised to rebuild, but never did. He walked through the doors in a simple gray suit, no press, no entourage. The children recognized him from a viral clip. "You're the man who stopped the bad guys," one boy said, holding a soccer ball. Darius smiled. "No," he said gently. "I'm the man who made them pay for what they owed you." He bent down, helping them unpack new computers, bought with the redirected funds. The room filled with laughter. That short, unscripted clip became more powerful than any press release. It was shared tens of millions of times. The caption read, "The man who took down corruption and built something better." That night, back in his office, Darius stood again by the window as Manhattan glowed below, the same city that had watched him be denied a seat and then watched him take the whole table away. Maya entered one last time. "You did it," she said softly. "Justice, exposure, reform, all of it." He turned toward her, his reflection framed by the skyline's glittering light. "No," he said. "I started it. The rest is up to them." She smiled faintly. "And what about you?" He looked out over the city, where the lights flickered like applause. "I'll keep listening," he said, "to the quiet ones, the overlooked ones, the people everyone else walks past." Maya studied him for a moment. "You think they'll ever see you differently now?" He smiled, that same composed, unshakable smile that had silenced a room full of billionaires. "They already do, but it doesn't matter." He turned back to the window. Power doesn't come from being seen. It comes from being heard when it matters most. Down below, the city pulsed. Taxis, neon lights, the hum of humanity moving forward. Somewhere, another gala was probably unfolding, another room full of people pretending to care. But for once, they would think twice before ignoring the man who stood quietly by the wall, because they'd learned something the hard way. Dignity doesn't shout. It waits, and when it speaks, the world listens. And that night, under the endless lights of Manhattan, Darius Cole's name glowed not as a headline, but as a legacy. Fade out. If you like this story, please subscribe to support this channel.